The Marines felt useless in Egghead. When I mean the Marines, I'm talking about the Vice Admirals and the Gorosei. I remember when I was a kid and I watched early One Piece, and Vice Admirals felt like an actual threat to the Straw Hats. The main people we could think about pre-time skip are Smoker and Garp. For this video, I will sadly only be talking about Smoker. Sorry, Garp. Smoker pre-time skip was carrying the Vice Admiral position on his back. He was putting up Wilt Chamberlain numbers. Every time Smoker was on the screen, you knew Luffy was gonna have trouble getting away from him. It was like this all the way up until Marineford, really. Yes, Smoker being a Logia did play a big role into this, but Smoker, he always felt like a reality check to Luffy. It's not only that Smoker is a competent fighter, he is arguably one of the coolest characters in pre-time skip One Piece. Smoker is a honorable man, but at times he could be stubborn and rebellious. Like his famous moment, him telling the Marine higher-ups to f*** off for trying to cover up the incident that happened in Alabasta. Smoker does not follow the rule of absolute justice, and he does what he thinks is fit. Sometimes working with the Straw Hats and letting them escape. I want you guys to look at your phone or whatever you're watching this video on, and look at me with a straight face and tell me that there's a current Vice Admiral that is just as cool or cooler than pre-time skip Smoker, not including Garp. I'm waiting. We could sit here all day, because I don't think nobody could confidently say one person. Doll's pretty cool, but other than that, I can't really think of any cool Vice Admirals. Speaking about current Admirals, let's see how they held up in Egghead. Okay, I'm looking at their resume right now, and let me see. They didn't do a damn thing. Kizaru pulls up at Egghead with his fleet. His fleet consisted of 9 admirals, Vice Admirals. 8 out of the 9 Vice Admirals we either never seen before or never seen them fight before. So of course the first time seeing them, I'm not super hyped, but I'm like a little hyped, because it's a good time to showcase some new characters, you know? I'm not saying they have to go toe to toe with Luffy, Sanji, or Zoro. This is why we have other Straw Hats like Usopp, Frankie, Brook, and Robin. Those characters could be used to showcase the characters that are not top tier. All the Vice Admirals were crowd control, and they were losing the battle the entire time, especially when Bondi got control of the Pacifista. Some Vice Admirals had some brief fights, and let's see how they went. Okay, first let's start with Doll. Doll shows off a cool move against one of the giants called Rock and Roll Blaster. Then Doll and Bluegrass try to fight Bonnie, and they get turned into children. That's the first L right there. Red King uses a named attack called Steam Knuckle, then gets destroyed by Frankie. Like, no diff to him. Pomsky ate an unknown Zoan devil fruit that lets him turn into an otter. I'm thinking that he's pretty cool. He also uses a technique called Sea Otter Hammer, but in Vice Admiral fashion in this arc, Pomsky tries to fight Bonnie and then he gets kicked away and loses, like if he's like a little fly. So as you guys can see, the Vice Admirals were extra bodies in Egghead that really didn't do anything. I was gonna have a whole section for Kizaru in this video, but I don't think it's that necessary. I'll touch on Kizaru a little bit because we basically know what happened with him. So we all know Kizaru was conflicted in Egghead. He clearly had a close connection with Bonnie, Kuma, Sentomaru, and Vegapunk. At first it seemed like he wasn't too bothered with this mission. He defeated Sentomaru rather quickly, but when you see Kizaru fight Luffy, things start to change. You can see he's having second thoughts on his mission, and we constantly see Oda panning back to Kizaru laying on the floor looking defeated. Or I guess a better word would be conflicted. We really see Kizaru defeated after he kills Vegapunk. We all know how hard that was on him. Vegapunk and Kizaru seem like they have plenty of sweet memories together. In my eyes, I think Kizaru took a W this arc. For the longest time, people thought Kizaru was a machine who always did his mission and had no emotions. Even though I guess it kind of does prove that he is a machine because he still killed one of his best friends. But we see a more serious side of Kizaru and not this trolly, people think he's always high all the time. He actually showed emotions when he faced conflict. We see Kizaru go through probably one of the hardest decisions he has to make in his life, killing one of his best friends. And it was sad but interesting to read through. Also, the whole theory going around about if Kizaru fed Luffy or not, I really hope that's the case, because that would be really cool to show that he really didn't want to do what he did, to the length that he would help Luffy get back up to try to beat the Gorosei. But I don't think Oda would ever confirm what happened there. Oh yeah, but let me know how you guys feel down below about Kizaru overall in the arc. Were you guys annoyed of his conflict, and do you think Oda dragged it out for too long, or do you guys think it was cool? Because me personally, I think the conflict thing was really cool. Now let's talk about the Gorosei. The 5 Gorosei have always been mysterious characters. We have seen them throughout the story covering up things, and we knew that they were not good people, obviously. Strength wise, I feel like it was pretty obvious the Gorosei were gonna be endgame opponents. Let's use context clues. Saturn has a scar right above his left eye, showing he has been in some sort of combat. Noshijuro is pretty fit for his age. His design speaks for itself. He looks like a seasoned fighter. St. Peter has a scar on his neck similar to Saturn's situation. When we got to Egghead, seeing Saturn on the ship was hype. Seeing a Gorosei not sit on their asses all day and actually experience the outside world was... I remember reading One Piece, I'm like, oh damn, a Gorosei is actually touching grass for the first time. Not just sitting down the whole time talking about, interesting. Things only start to get better when Saturn teleports onto the battlefield. Saturn has a great entrance in Egghead, making the atmosphere feel a lot darker. The whole community knew these Goroseis are not normal. Even to this day, people have discussed if the Gorosei have devil fruits or not. I remember when I was checking the wiki, I think it says that they were Zoans, mythical Zoans, but I don't know. Did I miss something? Like, did they confirm that? Because I don't think it's a devil fruit. I think it's some sort of magic. Especially if we look back to when the Straw Hats get teleported to different locations by Kuma. Brook shows up to Namakura Island, and a tribe was trying to summon demons and they were talking about magic. So magic is a part of the One Piece world, and just looking at the Gorosei abilities, I am leaning more towards magic than a devil fruit. But speaking of demons, when the Gorosei transformed, they looked like they came straight out of hell. Literally. Saturn was making people immobilized, and some marine soldiers were having their heads blown off just by looking at him. He had a really strong start, then it kind of became a joke in my opinion. Saturn had characters like Frankie, Kuma, and some members of the Straw Hats like Nami, Usopp, Chopper, and Robin deflecting attacks from him and holding him off. Especially when Luffy fought him, he became less intimidating, gave off more of a cartoon villain vibe, like, Luffy, I'll come get you one day. Like, he felt like an old Popeye's villain, or like a character from Tom and Jerry, which is fitting for Gear 5 and all that. So I know people in comments gonna be like, well, that's the point, Soul. That's what Oda wants. He wants it to be more. Yeah, I get that, but like, to what extent are we gonna go to this whole Looney Tunes thing? I'm not saying I don't like it, but I feel like there's a time and place for all that, especially when you're showing these crazy characters like the Gorosei, who we've been waiting for since basically the start of One Piece. But let's get back on topic. He'll constantly show up on Bonnie, try to kill her and bombard her with mean words, saying like, I did this to your mother, I'm the reason why you're like this. And then Luffy would show up, squish him like a pizza, and send him flying. Saturn stopped feeling like a threat after Luffy came back around every single time just to whoop his ass. Bro, Luffy gave Bonnie a motivational speech when she turned Gear 5 and then used Saturn as a punching bag. When Saturn summoned the rest of the Gorosei, some of the other members reminded us of how terrifying they could be though. I would give Oda that. For example, Mars looking down at Lucci in that one panel is so sick. I think that's probably my favorite panel of Egghead. Or Noshijuro cutting the Labo phase in half with a single strike, and his design alone when he transformed is crazy. Clearly the Gorosei did a lot for the story, but near the end of Egghead, they just feel like an obnoxious obstacle. And when I say that, actually, let me rephrase that. That's not all the Gorosei. I just really felt that was Saturn, and I don't know why. I can't really explain it, but I really felt it was Saturn. He just felt like a really cartoony boss. Or it might have to do a little bit with Oda's pacing at the end of Egghead. This arc gave me some concern for the future of One Piece. If the story is going to end with a giant war like how a lot of people think it is, the war is going to be so one-sided unless we get introduced to more characters. Let's really think about it. Luffy will have his whole fleet and probably pirates that mess with him, like Law, right? All the other pirates like Shanks, Buggy, and Blackbeard, even though they won't work together, I can see them putting their differences aside to deal with the world government first, then they're gonna fight each other after. We also can't forget about Dragon in the Revolutionary Army. Yes, the world government has some real threats like the God Knights that we still haven't fully seen yet, the Gorosei, of course Emu, and we also gotta factor in the ancient weapons and stuff. But like, who's not gonna say by that point, Blackbeard, who seemed like he's always gonna have an ancient weapon, pirates won't have one too, so it's gonna be kind of equal playing field when it comes to the ancient weapon discussion. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen, but I feel like Final War right now, the world government and the Marines look really bad, especially after Egghead, especially what the Vice Admirals did. But only time will tell. One Piece has been going on for, shoot, I don't even remember. I was born in 03 and I remember being 3 years old watching One Piece. And there's still so many questions that we need answered, so Oda will answer them in due time. I believe in Oda. I think he's great. So we'll see what happens. If you guys like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.